I think the key is what you said. I've heard other clients is they learned about your business.
Yes, for sure, yeah.
As opposed to, look at us, we're big, we send out 60 million emails a day, all that stuff,
Yeah.
but they know very little about your business.
Yeah, in fact, the last agency that I met with that networked their way in, the women showed up, didn't do any homework. They didn't go into any of our stores. You could tell just by what they were saying that they didn't understand our business. Didn't even go into a store.
Yeah.
So I took a meeting because they networked their way in, and then they just gave me their cookie cutter, here's our book, here's what we do, but didn't really understand our business at all.
Welcome to the Orange County Ad Club podcast series. Thank you very much for being here.
Good morning, yes, please.
And you're currently Senior VP of Marketing for the UPS stores.
Mm-hmm.
And I know your background. Let's see how I can remember it. Notre Dame, MBA from Notre Dame,
Yeah.
Mendoza School of Business, I think.
Yeah,
Probably a good Catholic girl.
I try.
Uh-huh. And then you went into the automotive business,
I
like
did.
what, Ford. And in that, it's funny, we had Kristen Simmons, she came out of
Yeah,
Ford.
sure, I know Kristen.
Andrea Memenis, she came out.
Know her too, yeah.
Nicole Conniff, she came out of
Yeah.
Ford. And Bellick, that was president of Volvo. And so all these very dynamic women. And then I know that you went from Ford, I believe Mercedes-Benz, Hyundai.
Mm-hmm.
And then I met you at Jacuzzi.
That's right, that's right, yeah.
Jacuzzi spas. And then you took a CMO spot with really supermarkets in
That's
the
right.
Bay Area. And
I did.
I did a review for you. And
Oh, you did, yeah, the agency review, yeah.
yes, and now you're with the UPS stores.
That's right.
So, anything else you want to interject in terms of your
I've had
background?
quite the journey, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, tell me, how can marketers survive today? How do you survive
You
with
know
all
what?
the noise and everything that's going on out there? It's just a blender.
Yeah, it is, but it's a lot of fun. I
Is
love
it?
being a marketer, without a doubt. And being in marketing when you're in a franchise system also is very dynamic. Automotive industry is franchising, the UPS store is franchising, so that keeps you on your toes even more when you work with independent business owners.
So how? Is
So-
it just they have access to you, or or you have councils that you have to deal with?
Yeah, we do. At the UPS store, we have a marketing advisory council. In fact, we just had a meeting last week. And really talk about what it takes to be a marketer, paying attention, understanding what your customer wants, how you can fulfill their needs. It goes back to the basics of marketing. And one of the things that the franchisees help me with is staying connected with our customers. They're out there every day. They're across the counter with the customers. And so I've got to keep my feelers out, understand what's going on. So they really help me do that.
Oh, great. And so what's your assessment of the marketing world today?
It's dynamic, more dynamic than it's ever been. So again, it goes back to key strategies. You've got to have a really good strategy. You really need to know what you're trying to accomplish and why. I find that people do things for the sake of doing things, but you really have to do things with purpose. You have to know why you're doing it, what you're trying to accomplish, who you're trying to attract, and how you're going to measure your performance. So really stay focused.
Is it more complex, do you think, than when you first started, or just different?
You know what I find is there are different tools, if
Yeah.
you think about it, right? You've got different tools in order to reach people, connect with people, have a relationship with your customer. So the tools are different in how you use them.
Right.
So.
And what about technology?
Yeah.
I'm sure that impacts the stores. They do different
Right.
things. I guess they move from, just moving boxes, and I can go in and they'll shred things for you. They do printing,
Right.
And so how do you keep up with technology? There's so much going on, new automated marketing platforms, social media is changing, Google changes its algorithms, Facebook and the way their feeds, everything's
Right.
always changing.
Yeah, you know what? I think really our strategy has been, in the past you would have maybe one agency and they would handle a lot. Right now we have several agencies and they're specialists. So the fact that they're specialists helps us with being current with what's happening. So we have an agency that handles social media. That's separate from our promotions agency, separate from our main agency. So the fact that we have specialists in each of the areas makes sure that we stay current.
And do you like having multiple agencies?
Yeah, you know, it really works out well. I make sure that they all communicate with each other. 4 times a year, I do an all-agency meeting where all the agency partners come together. We share information, make sure that they know what we're trying to accomplish. They all know each other, so they can pick up the phone and talk to each other. They don't have to go through the client to be able to do that. But it really, really works out well.
And do they, outside of those meeting times, do they dialogue together?
They do. They really do. Yeah, well, once you're together a couple times a year and I call it you break bread, you have lunch together, you get to know someone, it's really easy to pick up the phone or reach out if you got a question. So it really works out well. We had our all-agency meeting last week, and you can tell that they're working as a team. So that's the key.
Yeah, and so how do you motivate an agency to do the best work for you?
You know,
fear? Is it fear or money?
No. Fear and money, that's no fun, right? Although we're all for profit, don't get me wrong, we're all trying to make money. Part of it is challenging assignments, freedom to bring new ideas, sharing of information. They know what's going on. They feel like they're part of something. And for our business, really, it's twofold. One is we're out there working hard for our core customer, which is a small business owner, which we have a great passion for. Right? Somebody who has no employees or 5 or less employees, my gosh, we want to do everything we can to help them. Right. And then we're again in a franchise system, so we have independent business owners, people that have invested their life savings into the business. So there's a real feeling of wanting to help and contribute and help them be successful. So that can be very meaningful. So like that.
So you were telling me a story about that you just had a float in the Rose Parade.
Yeah, we did, yeah.
And
so Bessie the Sea Monster.
Bessie the Sea Monster. So
Yes.
Tell me that story. How did that come into fruition?
Yeah, you know, it's funny, going back to having several agencies, we had the notion of wanting to put a float in the Rose Parade. So I'm thinking, okay, well, how do you accomplish that? So we have a local promotion agency here. I called the account person and said, hey, Alco, and I said, hey, we want to put a float in the Rose Parade. Go figure it out, right?
Yeah.
So he goes, okay, hangs up the phone. It was probably a 15-second conversation. Sure enough, he comes back, he figured it out, he networked his way in, and we've been in the Rose Parade for 2 years now. They do the promotions around it. We did post-parade promotions, so you really never know how things are going to turn out. And if you're an agency that just says yes, then you end up with more business.
So that obviously that left a very good feeling with you, that they were proactive.
Right.
And so do you think it does lead to more business?
It really does. I mean, here he took a phone call. I'm sure they've never put a float in a parade, didn't know anything about it, and again, he networked his way in. As it turned out, his wife knew the former head of the Tournament of Roses, so she connected them together. Then he contacted the Tournament of Roses on our behalf, got us an interview. We did our interview, we got accepted, filled out the application, they connected us with float builders, and it just kind of went from there. So good old networking.
Good old networking.
Yeah, good old networking, right, exactly.
So are all agencies the same, or are they different? How do they differ? Or, I've heard people say they're all the same, and sometimes when you do a review, you go from one shop to another shop, and hey, it's the logos of the clients, these are the big places that we worked, here's our hocus pocus planning process,
Right.
And so do you think they're all the same, or are they different?
They're absolutely not the same.
I agree.
I like to think of agencies as living organisms. They live and breathe and act and have different cultures, and they feel different and they act different and they have different ideas. So I would say they're absolutely not the same.
Yeah, I think they have this template that I don't know where they got it from. They should discard it. But you know what I think, what I found is it's really about the initiative, the sweat equity that distinguishes them.
Of course, right.
I remember when we did Rayleigh's review, it just popped into my mind, and we saw a lot of big multinationals, other agencies in the Bay Area, and then we went into a smaller shop, and they literally had the entire room posted with things about the supermarket business.
Right, sure, right.
And all these people had, and their partners and everything, and they had all gone to the stores, done store checks.
Yes.
And I remember one thing, it was, You know, it was in San Francisco. We're parking the car and it was raining, and there was a fellow in the parking spot, and I thought it was like an AE or something like that. We walk in, and it's one of the principals of the agency, and he knew he was holding the parking spot with an umbrella for you, and I went, man, talk about, you know, subtle communication of going beyond, right? And I think they ended up being number 2.
Yeah,
so how can agencies build strong client relationships? You know, what's important if you have an agency, how often do you like it if they contact you often, or you know, how do they build a strong relationship with you?
Well, one, certainly accessibility is key, right? Responsiveness is still the name of the game when it comes to agencies. The other part really is being receptive to feedback. I try to do it both formally and informally with agencies, so they know exactly where they stand. If there's an issue, they know about it immediately, but really being receptive to feedback, listening to what the client has to say, and figuring out the best way to deliver whatever the needs are.
So do you do an annual agency review?
We, for our main agency, we do a written evaluation twice a year.
Written, oh yes,
Exactly.
not a review, not a review.
Yeah,
you don't put them on
I
a
try
review.
to.
Bad words,
I try
sorry
not to
mouth,
say that,
sorry
yeah.
mouth.
We do a written evaluation so that they have hardcore feedback.
Well,
So
and-
that's always a good thing.
And what do you grade them on?
Really a variety, virtually every area of the area that they handle for our business. From the account folks to creative to media planning, media buying, all the different areas. And the reason why I like to do it twice a year is you can see either progress or not progress. So you can see how you're trending one way or the other. So when you've got an area to improve, then you know when you've made progress, and if you've already performing at a high level, then you do everything you can to stay there. So.
And what about innovation? Do you grade them on the ideas they're bringing to you, and you know, just new thoughts and you know, new technologies? Is that part of it?
Well, what we care about is whether or not an idea delivers on our business needs.
Right.
So try not to focus on creative for the sake of creative. I need creative to be effective in the marketplace.
Right.
So do I want new ideas? Absolutely. In fact, we just did an initiative at the end of last year called The Closer. And this was an idea that Donor, our agency, brought to us. And it was unexpected, didn't ask for it. It made perfect sense. It was at a time where we wanted to beef up our communications related to print. And so we went with the initiative, and it delivered the results. So I cared about it because it performed.
So you know, let's talk about that a little bit, because so here's an agency, they come, you haven't asked them for something, they have an idea, and they want to bring it to you, and they call, hey, wait, Michelle, we have a great idea, we'd like to show it to you.
Right.
Are you receptive to that, or do you think that, well, I didn't ask them to do that, and they're using my fees, you know, or how does that all work? Is it...
You know what, it's one of those, it depends. In this situation, they brought an idea, it was something where part of what they work on for us was the key component of it, and then of course it had social media implications and the rest of it, so then the other agencies needed to bring some work to the party. But it was at a time of year where it made sense. We wanted to revitalize our communications in the print arena, so sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
I can think of examples where they brought ideas and timing wasn't right, or we were working on something else and it didn't work. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't bring the ideas though.
Yeah, so you always want the idea, you want the ideas.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Well, it's also fun, I'm not gonna lie, right?
Yeah.
That's the good part.
So what about, you know, you've been in situations, I'm sure, where you have to have ended your relationship with an agency. And can you see that coming? Are there signs, or, you know, is there a tipping point?
You know what? Not always. For example, we're going through a transition in one of the areas of our business. The agency's done fine. They've delivered. We opened up part of our business to see what else is out there, and somebody else was more current, had ideas, was able to add more features to this area of our business, and at a better price. So, you know, what are you going to do? It's just the nature of the business. Didn't mean that the agency did anything wrong or didn't deliver on what we requested, but somebody else came along, they had more to offer at a better price. So
maybe more hunger.
You know, you don't, what else are you going to do? Now that agency still is keeping part of our business.
Right.
Didn't lose it all, so you want to stay in there, be positive, contribute, because you never know where that's going to lead.
That's
So,
right. Yeah.
Yeah, don't give up. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No, you have to rebuild.
it's exactly right.
So let's talk about new business. Obviously, the UPS stores, national brand.
Right.
You know, you're a big target. You're probably on a lot of agencies, new business lists, prospects, whatever. So how much agency solicitation do you get in a week or a month?
It varies. Certainly a couple times a month, I'll get an email note or a phone call or something like that.
Just a couple? That's
Yeah, not too many. We're the subsidiary of UPS, so I call it we're the little guy, in San Diego, kind of minding our own business. So I'm sure UPS gets more of the solicitation than the UPS store would.
Right.
But we get our share. I do meet with different firms at different times.
You'll take a meeting?
Yeah, every now and then. But here's what happens: they network their way in. It's usually somebody who knows someone. They ask me, Michelle, will you blah, 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 meet with somebody. That's generally the way that I will meet with someone if they network their way in.
So somebody has to, really kind of, actually, expose part of their bank of goodwill to make
That's
sure.
Right. Vouch for them a little bit. Yeah,
vouch.
exactly.
Yeah, they're a good shop, and then they can get their foot in the door. That's
Although
great.
I've done some things cold as well. We ended up doing a partnership with PBS and Startup, just because the gentleman who created the show and put it all together was a little tenacious, and he was a nice guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he did his homework. He learned about our business. He learned about our strategy, went to some of our stores, left me a thoughtful message. I called him back. So there was somebody who was cold. He did network his way in. Ended up, we've been doing something with him for 2 years now.
Yeah.
So
I think
you never know.
I think the key is what you said. I've heard other clients is they learned about your business.
Yes, for sure. Yeah.
As opposed to, look at us, we're big. We send out 60 million emails a day. All that stuff.
Yeah.
But they know very little about your business.
Yeah. In fact, the last agency that I met with that networked their way in, the women showed up, didn't do any homework. They didn't go into any of our stores. You could tell just by what they were saying that they didn't understand our business. Didn't even go into a store.
Yeah.
So I took a meeting because they networked their way in, and then they just gave me their cookie cutter, here's our book, here's what we do, but didn't really understand our business at all. If they had just even spent a day learning about what we do, going to a store. We have 4,600 retail locations. There is one by where you live. They could have easily gone into a store, talked to one of our store owners, associates, got to know us a little better.
That's true.
And they didn't do anything. So I said, have a nice day, and that was that.
Yes, I think it is about knowing the business. I remember when I did the Jenny Craig review, this really impressed me. Everybody in the room, even if male and female, said they went on a Jenny Craig diet.
Oh, gosh.
You know what? And
that's taking one for the team.
Isn't it? You know, but I mean, like, how can you say no to that? Okay, no, you don't really care about our business. You're eating, you've changed your entire life.
Exactly, right. That's funny.
So let me ask you, how often do you think about advertising during the day? My perspective is that agencies think about all the time, and that they think clients think about all the time.
Right.
And I think clients think about, hiring people, dealer meetings,
right.
Marketing plans, so many other things. So tell me what your week or your day is like. How often does advertising come into it?
You know what? It's sort of a peaks and valleys type situation. When you're in the planning stages or re-looking at your strategy or doing research or getting geared up for the next year, maybe not. But then when I'm in sort of execution mode, then you're hot and heavy. Then you've got a whole plan on when you're going to do the research, create a brief, when the agency is going to show you work, when it's going to be made. Then you have a project plan that's pretty darn detailed. So it sort of comes in peaks and valleys, I would say. I mean, that's for the major stuff.
Sure.
For the minor stuff, it depends. Whether we're redoing creative for the store environment, an email note, the website, that also is sort of sporadic as well, depending on where you're at.
Right.
So.
And I'm sure with a retail business like the UPS store, there's a lot of promotions, there's a lot of different elements from POP, to different programs and specials on business cards and specials on printing and everything else. There's a lot of balls up in the air.
Yeah, and then we've got all the, I'll call it the holidays, right? Where you've got shipping, Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, Easter, right?
Sure.
The holidays. So there's that sprinkled in at the same time.
Yeah.
So.
So let's talk about your personal life. I mean,
Yes.
I know you have a sister
Yeah, I do.
in the
yeah.
Middle East.
Yeah, she's a firefighter. Works for the Department of Defense.
And
So-
does she have some tats, some sleeves?
She does. She's got 2 sleeves. Her chest is covered. She loves it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of her creative release in
And-
my mind. So.
And what about you? What are your passions?
You know what? I'm a little bit of a hummingbird freak. I got 7 hummingbird feeders in my backyard.
Oh, really?
So yeah, I got right now probably about 20 hummingbirds that come and hang out at my house. So a little
Wow,
bit of a-
different colors?
Yeah, they are. Well, the birds themselves don't have color. It's all reflection off the feathers. So
Really?
yeah, but they're fascinating. So I'll sit in the backyard, do a little gardening, read a book, and I've got all my birds hanging out. So they're pretty
Oh.
demanding. Those little guys could eat. They may be little, but they go through a lot of food. So
Yeah,
it's fun.
I hear their wings flap at a phenomenal speed,
Yes,
you know.
they
and
do.
no, I guess the serenity of birds and the connection to nature,
Yeah,
right?
it is nice. And I'm a succulent fan as well.
Are you?
I've got my share of succulents going on at the house as well. So
Oh,
it's
the
nice.
garden.
Yeah, a little gardening, exactly. So, which for me, once, for the type of role I have in meetings and things like that, it's nice to sort of get outside and change my environment and things
Quiet
like
the
that.
mind.
So, yeah, you do need that downtime. Otherwise, I call it sensory overload all the time, right? Between the incoming of external from your business, inside your business, there's a lot going on. So you got to balance that out a little bit to keep moving forward.
Well, thank
So-
you very much for
Hank,
dropping
it's
by
always a
today.
pleasure.
Always a pleasure
Right?
to see you.
Okay.
Okay.